the president will be announcing Wednesday is finalized. We've heard a number of different statements from the president over the last several days and other administration officials about particularly where the corporate tax rate would be set. So is the tax plan finalized right now, what the president will be rolling out in 48 hours?
There are certain details that are finalized, and the president will be announcing those on Wednesday. Jordan?
Thanks, Sarah. To follow up on Steve's question on Puerto Rico, what would the administration say to people on the island who are saying there's not enough time to do this big fact-finding mission? There's isolated areas in the island that don't have any water, electricity, gas. There's buildings that don't even have roofs, and there's water coming into houses. And this has all been reported out there in the media. I mean, what would you say to people on the island who say that there's just not enough time and that the aid needs to be rushed there immediately?
Again, the response has been at an unprecedented level, and we're supplying federal assistance as quickly as possible. We're going to continue to do that. The president asked both Tom Bossert and Brock Long to go be on the ground and help come back and give us a list of what is needed and that we can turn around quickly. I'm talking about longer term assessment, which simply can't be done in a day. We want to make sure that the funding is provided, but we also want to make sure that we're actually funding the correct things.
Sarah.
Deb?
Yeah. Steve Bannon and another loyalty Friday night. Does he believe that he owes it to Republican senators who voted for a Senate health care bill to support them? How does he feel about the people who have worked in this White House should go along with his thoughts on these races?
I think that the president feels that he owes it to the American people who elected him, which means they supported the agenda that he was trying to promote. And the more that we have like-minded officials helping promote and push that agenda and pass that legislation, I think the better off we are. And that's certainly the reason that the president was elected. And so I think the more that we can have people help make that successful, that's certainly, I think, a positive thing and the right step forward. Hallie?
I want to follow up here. Will the White House commit to releasing Jared Kushner's private emails? The oath of office was to defend the Constitution. So does the president have a problem with the First Amendment?
Not at all. The president is simply stating that pride in our country is a good thing. It's something that we should all celebrate. It's something that should frankly bring us together, not divide us. Standing up for the national anthem, he feels, is a symbol of that. Jim?
Just support dissension?
Can I follow up on what Hallie was asking? Why is it that the president over the weekend is going after, or seeming to go after, African American athletes? And then this morning he's putting out a tweet praising NASCAR, which obviously is geared towards a different demographic, and the way they stand and respect and honor the flag. Is he trying to wage something of a cultural war?
Not at all. The president's not talking about race. The president's talking about pride in our country. What you saw yesterday were players and fans of all races joining together as Americans to honor our service members. That's what the president's talking about. That's what his focus is on. As you guys know, the president's got an event here in a few minutes, so we're going to close there. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
It is a cultural reference.
All right. You have been listening to White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, the administration defending the president's controversial attacks on NFL players, saying that he's not against anyone but standing up for the flag. So much to discuss here. You heard that briefing. She was being pummeled with questions about the president's comments, criticizing those NFL players who kneeled during the national anthem. I want to bring in my panel now. Gloria, I'm going to start with you. She came out and it was clear sort of the talking point here was saying that, you know, he's not against anyone. He is for bringing everyone together. He wants everyone to be united. How can that be if he singled out players in Alabama, calling them names, SOBs?
Well, it was difficult. It was very clear to me that Sarah Sanders had an audience of one who would be watching her, and that's the President of the United States. And what she seemed to be saying is that, look, this is just about the flag. This isn't about the First Amendment. This isn't about race. When she was asked quite directly by John Roberts of Fox, you know, how do you defend that when the president calls people SOBs who should be fired? She said, it's always appropriate to defend the flag. So what she was doing was deflecting every question about how this might be interpreted by people who were called names and saying, well, no, wait a minute. The president really just is patriotic. And these people, by insinuation, are not patriotic. And by the way, if they want to attack police officers who don't think or defending them, why not look at the people who are protecting them on the sidelines? I mean, she said that a bit sarcastically.
Right.
But I think, what she was trying to do was deflect.
All right, I want to bring in Jim Acosta. Jim, we saw Sarah Sanders sort of cut you off there when you were trying to ask her follow-up questions on the heels of asking whether the president is trying to wage a culture war, and she claims that no, he's not.
Hi, Pam. That's right. Yes, what we heard from White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders here is that this is not about race. And you heard repeatedly during this briefing today the White House trying to say, no, this is a president who just wants to honor the American flag, wants to see professional athletes do the same thing at sporting events. But I do think, and that's why I asked the question there at the very end of the briefing. I wasn't given a follow-up question like some of my other colleagues in the room. But why is it that the president was seeming to go after African-American athletes over the weekend? He went after Colin Kaepernick at that rally in Alabama Friday night, went after Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors on Saturday, saying he was no longer invited to the White House for their championship celebration here. When at the same time, and I tried to follow up with this question, Tom Brady did not make it here to the White House when the New England Patriots made it. There were no angry tweets from the president directed at Tom Brady or other athletes. And so I think it does raise this question, especially when you have the president earlier this morning tweeting about his respect for and his gratitude towards NASCAR fans and the way they honor the flag at their events. I think, Pam, I don't think it's a stretch to say that is a bit of a dog whistle that is being played out there. And as you saw here at the very tail end of the briefing, Sarah Sanders wanted no part of that conversation. She insisted this is not about race, this is not a culture war, and then she was heading for the exits.
And thank you, Jim Acosta. We'll stand by because we want to go back to. I want to bring back our panel on that note because Sarah Sanders was also asked point blank, how can this not be about race when the reason this whole thing started in the first place was when Colin Kaepernick kneeled to protest against what he believed was racial injustice and police violence. Ephraim Salaam, you're a retired NFL player. She responded to that, saying that the reason for kneeling has become something other than that the focus has long since changed. What is your reaction? Is that true?
It's absolutely false. And when she said it, I kind of chuckled because that's the narrative that they want you to follow. They want it to be about something other than what the actual issue is. Colin Kaepernick himself and other players who have been protesting during the national anthem in these games have stated what they're protesting, and it's the injustice by the hands of paid protecting officials in this country, in large part due to minorities. Now, if you want to change the narrative to help you and make it about the flag and being patriotic, then that only helps your case instead of actually talking about what the actual protest is about. And it's frustrating for those who want a voice in this because they want the narrative to change. Because if the narrative changes, now they seem like they're in the right. Hey, we're all Americans. Let's, we're patriotic. We'll stand for the flag. We won't desecrate the flag by taking the knee. And in fact, how can a man who claims to be patriotic and about the flag, who was a known draft dodger, who insulted Senator McClain for being a POW and called him a loser, who made fun of a Gold Star family when their child was killed in battle, how can that be patriotic? You can't have it both ways.
Christine Brennan, I want to get your perspective on this. Of course, you're a CNN sports analyst, USA Today columnist. Sarah Sanders was also asked this notion that look, the president has every right to promote the flag and to be patriotic. But what about the First Amendment in all of this?
Yeah, well, I will say this. Certainly, she was exercising her First Amendment right to say whatever she wanted to say. As a journalist who's covered many, many press conferences, I have to say that was just alarming, appalling, and you just want to throw up your hands as a journalist and say, what are you hearing? Obviously the answer is just, she can't answer. There's nothing to say. The tweets speak for themselves. And what you have here with Colin Kaepernick is a man who quietly, who peacefully protested, as you said, just exhibiting his opportunity to exercise his First Amendment rights as he feels that he could. Also, while he was doing that, as many people know, he pledged to give $1 million to charity, and he is, by all accounts, close to that $1 million. That's what Colin Kaepernick has done. As he's drawn the ire of so many people, Kaepernick has been giving $1 million to charity. So there's that piece of it as well. And I think the overall outcome, you can see by the questions, this story's not going away. It is a big deal. And by not answering the questions properly, as I believe that the press secretary did not do, I think it just keeps it going. And it's a big issue, and it should be a big issue in this country, and an important issue to discuss for all of us.
And Nia, what do you have to say to her response about this, saying that, look, protesters should speak out against officers protecting them if their issue is with police violence, and not speak out against the flag?
Well, I don't remember any of these protesters speaking out against the flag, right? I mean, that isn't, this idea that they're protesting the flag, I hadn't realized that is what they're doing. They are using a moment during these football games to draw attention to their cause, to their issue, and their call for racial justice and racial equality. And you see that often with protests, right? I mean, even if you think about the March on Washington, it was in Washington to make a point, right? It was in Washington to dramatize a point, and that's what protesters often do. This idea that there's a right way and a wrong way to protest is just silly, and sort of misses the point of what protest is all about. It is actually meant to disrupt. It is actually meant to draw attention to a cause. And I think if you look at social movements throughout history, the public marching peacefully across a bridge, right? That was seen as disruptive as well. If you think about the march in Selma, so this idea that somehow there's a correct way, and if they do it that way, they would somehow be correct and draw some support, I think is just not in line with history here. I mean, it was interesting if you look at what she did in the beginning. She was talking about the Little Rock Nine at some point in the beginning, sort of wrapping the White House and this administration in the civil rights movement. Again, the civil rights movement was incredibly disruptive. People didn't agree with the civil rights movement as it happened. So you can sort of go back and sanitize it now, but it wasn't that way back then.
But Gloria, there are people in his base and otherwise who do believe that it's disrespectful, it's insulting to members of the military who have fought for our freedom by kneeling during the national anthem. So, you know, why is it such an issue that the president spoke out about this?
Well, look, absolutely. There are people who disagreed about taking the knee, and honest people can have that disagreement about whether that's the appropriate thing to do, whether it was the right thing to do at the moment. And the president, however, was full of grievance on this. He was mad at Steph Curry because he wasn't going to go to the White House. So he said, okay, the Warriors, you're not invited to the White House. And he is so full of grievance that he can't see the larger argument here. So he moved from Steph Curry to the knee, taking of the knee, and then he started calling people SOBs. This is the President of the United States who started calling people names. Now, tomorrow he may move on and call somebody else a name, whether it's John McCain for voting against him or Jeff Sessions if he doesn't like what he does. But at this point, we understand this is the MO of this president. When he has a grievance for somebody, this is what he does, or when he feels like he's been insulted. But the country is really not about Donald Trump. The country is about larger things. And if you want to have a discussion about patriotism, and you want to have a discussion about how people are treated in this country by the police, that's the kind of thing the president ought to say, you know, we need to have that we need to do that. Let's use this as a moment. But, you know, that's not going to happen. And so everybody else has to have that discussion without him.
And it's so interesting. You look at the bigger picture, all that's on the president's plate right now, tax reform, healthcare, Puerto Rico, and yet this has really seemingly been a big focus for him over the last few days. Ephraim, I want to ask you, only a small fraction of NFL players kneeled during the national anthem before this. Now, in the wake of the president's tweet, it seems as though he has only galvanized NFL players and owners.
Well, he has, and yes, it was a small group of players who carried on what Colin Kaepernick started last year. And I'm disappointed that it took something like this from the man who's supposed to be the leader of the free world to make those disparaging statements about these men who've done nothing but elevate people in their communities, who've donated their time and their money to charity. I played 13 years in the NFL. I had a foundation. I put children in school. It's the things that these professional athletes in all sports do to help their community, to call them SOBs, it's disheartening. But I want to make one thing clear. What we saw yesterday was we saw owners and we saw players come together. They were galvanized by the statements that Trump made. But I want you to understand this. I'm not fooled by any of it, because you got to remember, a large portion of these owners, 9 teams to be exact, contributed funds directly to President Trump and his campaign. This is not something, these statements he made about the NFL and about these players taking the knee, those aren't surprising to me. I'm not shocked by that, because if you look at his platform that he ran on, the rhetoric was unbelievable. He's been disparaging people, handicapped people, women, minorities the whole time. And for you to come out of your pocket and donate money to a person like that to take office in the best country in the world, and now you're upset because he says something about your beloved NFL. Let's not get blinded by the fact that some of those same owners who were locked arm in arm with those players, who they did not want to recognize prior to those statements as being of having the constitutional freedom to protest, now all of a sudden they're galvanized. They're with the team. I'm not okay with that.
Let me bring in Christine on the final note. Let me ask you on that note, Christine. What do you make of these owners here who have released statements condemning the president's comments, but none have hired Colin Kaepernick?
Well, that's true, and I've kind of joked, but how long before Kaepernick gets hired? You'd think now he's the least of anyone's concerns, and he's a good quarterback who took a team to the Super Bowl 5 years ago. So there's that piece of it. These owners are business people, and at the end of the day, they want to make sure that they are their employees. This is a big deal to their employees, obviously. Thankfully, it is, and so they get that. It may be that they are kind of playing both sides against the middle. However, it was nice to see them working together with the players on Sunday and standing with their players on Sunday. I agree, their history, the background of a lot of these owners is very different in terms of supporting Trump. But at least for one day, they were with their players.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Much more to discuss on this very busy Monday. Coming up, the other big headline today, North Korea claiming President Trump declared war over Twitter, saying that now gives them the right to shoot down American planes. We will discuss the escalating tension and what comes next.
Today's Best Western is more rewarding than ever. Rewards members get our best rates and points that never expire. Fast forward to a free night by earning double rewards points with every stay. Go get rewarded. Book now at bestwestern.com.
People confuse nice and kind, but they're different. It's nice to remove artificial ingredients. Kind never had to. We choose real ingredients like almonds, peanuts, and a drizzle of dark chocolate. Give Kind a try.
Where's Gary?
Saved money on motorcycle insurance with Geico. Going up the country. Later, Gary.
I have a motorcycle.
Wonderful. Geico Motorcycle. Great rates for great rides.
Honey, can we do this tomorrow?
Can we do this tomorrow?
If you have heart failure symptoms, your risk of hospitalization could increase, making tomorrow uncertain. But Entresto is a medicine that was proven in the largest heart failure study ever to help more people stay alive and out of the hospital than a leading heart failure medicine. Women who are pregnant must not take Entresto. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. Don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren. If you've had angioedema while taking an ACE or ARB medicine, don't take Entresto. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high potassium in your blood.
Tomorrow, tomorrow.
When can you do this again, Grandpa?
Well, how about tomorrow?
Ask your doctor about Entresto and help make tomorrow possible.
I count on my Dell Small Business Advisor for tech advice. With one phone call, I get products that suit my needs and I get back to business.
Test drive the new 2018 Acura TLX with precision all-wheel steering.
Yeah. I know you can feel the movement.
Lease the 2018 Acura TLX for $329 a month for well-qualified customers. Visit your Acura dealer today.
Closed captioning brought to you by OnlyMeso.com.
We offer a free book on mesothelioma. Call for the free book and receive so much more. Call 1-800-831-3700.
Well, thanks for joining me on this Monday. I'm Pamela Brown in for Brooke Baldwin. The White House today in damage control once again, it seems. This time after President Trump triples down on his attack on the NFL, urging team owners to fire them. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was pressed on the president's comments moments ago.
Did the president go too far in referring to these players as SOBs who should be fired?
I think that it's always appropriate for the President of the United States to defend our flag, to defend the national anthem, and to defend the men and women who fought and died to defend it.
Does the president believe that there are very fine people who kneeled yesterday watching those games, or are they all SOBs?
I think you're trying to conflate different things here. Look, we certainly respect the rights that people have, but I think we also need to focus. Again, this isn't about the president being against something, which is what everybody wants to drive. This is about the president being for something.
So the response is just the latest in the back and forth between the Trump White House and prominent athletes. Some NFL players and team owners refused to stand during the anthem in protest against the president's comments, while others locked arms in solidarity. More protests are expected tonight, and here is what the president said while speaking to a predominantly white crowd in Alabama.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
CNN White House correspondent Sarah Murray joins me now. So how is the White House handling this fallout, Sarah?
Well, Pam, I guess you could say they tried to engage in some kind of cleanup effort today, but it really wasn't much of a cleanup effort at all. We saw Sarah Huckabee Sanders out there. She didn't apologize for the language the president used, calling these players SOBs. She insisted that this was not supposed to be an attack on anyone, even though the president called for the firing or suspension of those who were kneeling, and tried to sort of explain it as the president sees this as a moment where everyone should be united in patriotism, everyone should be united under the flag. She also dismissed the notion that this is in any way Trump trying to engage in some kind of culture war when he's taking aim at these African-American players within the NFL. Of course, it is questionable why the president would be devoting so much of his time, so much of his attention to something like this, when obviously we have health care playing out in Congress. We know he wants to move ahead with tax reform. He has a very robust agenda, and yet this is where his attention is focused, Pam.
Yeah, and you know, there's other things going on besides what you pointed out. There's of course North Korea, the other big headline today. North Korea accusing the president of declaring war on the country over the weekend in a tweet, warning that they may not be around much longer. How did the White House respond to that?
And again, Pam, just stunning that one of the focuses today has been on the president's feud with NFL players. When you have news like that coming out, North Korea's foreign minister accusing President Trump of declaring war on North Korea. Today, Sarah Sanders dismissed that outright. She said the U.S. is not declaring war on North Korea. The president didn't declare war on North Korea. She called any suggestion of that absurd.
All right, Sarah Murray from the White House, thanks so much. Let's listen to what Cleveland Cavalier LeBron James had to say about the president's comments.
Can we sit up here and say that we are trying to make a difference? Because we know this is the greatest country in the world. It's the land of the free. But we still have problems just like everybody else. And when we have those problems, we have to figure out a way how we come together and be as great as we can be as a people. Because the people run this country, not one individual. And damn sure not him.
Joshua Dubois, CNN contributor and former White House Religious Affairs Director under President Obama, joins us now. And Jim Lowe, pastor of Guiding Light Church in Birmingham, Alabama. He co-organized an All Lives Matter march with conservative political commentator and talk show host Glenn Beck. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Pastor, I'm going to start with you. The president says this is not about race. Do you agree?
Well, I don't know what the president's position is on that, but I think it goes beyond that. I think we need to face the issues that the nation has to deal with here. And the president is moving it over to I guess a political way of looking at things. He's looking at it, say it's not about race, but it does affect people of all races here, the words that he speaks and what's going on. It does have something to do with that. Now, he's trying to make it patriotic. But I think the protesters are protesting about what's happening to a group of people in this nation. I think that's what the protesters are speaking about.
Josh,
he has another issue. He's talking about patriotism.
Well, certainly the president's speech in Alabama, to me, it felt like it was about race. This was more than a dog whistle. This was an elephant trombone. I mean, you have this man giving this unhinged rant about a group of African American players who are exercising their constitutional rights. I mean, once again, this is just another moral disaster from this president. And you know, if folks step back and think about it, which is a greater moral debasement to our country? One individual, and now many individuals, quietly taking a knee to honor and mark the lives of those lost because of police violence, or the president of the United States ranting and raving and calling fellow citizens sons of bees. I mean, this is the type of behavior that we would not accept from middle schoolers. Why are we accepting it from the president?
So, Bishop Lowe, do you think he went too far? I mean, you know, the president has a right to his opinion here, but do you think he crossed the line in handling it that way?
I think the president was wrong in his words about calling people, demeaning the character of people who are making a protest for something that they believe in. They have a right to make their protest, just as he has a right to state what he wants to say. But we have no human being has a right to degrade or demean or even speak negative of another human being's character or their life because of what they believe. That's one of the problems we have today. We can't sit down and discuss issues civilly without calling people names. I think the president was wrong to do that. I think those people have a right to protest, but I also think that people have a right, if they want to take a knee to protest, they should also have a right to take a knee to pray. That's where I think we're missing it in this nation.
And you know,
I'm
sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to say that I think a lot of those players who are taking a knee are both protesting and praying at the same time. In the great tradition of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and many others, Fannie Lou Hamer, who both protested and prayed. They're praying for America's ideals. They're praying that we would close the gap between what the country says about itself and how we actually live in our country today.
If we're going to do that, then let's stand up and say that we have a right to pray also by taking a knee to pray. If the NFL is going to allow them to protest the national anthem, then allow them also to pray. if you're going to do it, you can't have it both ways. And for American public out there, we need to stand behind the rights of our Constitution for people to protest or address any grievance against their government. And this is addressing a grievance by them taking a knee to say we protest the way police brutality is. They have a right to do that. And the people that are with the NFL, the owners have a right to decide whether they want to fire them or not. So it goes each way. There are consequences for the actions. But I go back to the point. The hypocrisy of America shows itself with these things that are going on that is happening to the Afro-Americans, what's happening to the Native Americans. That's hypocrisy that's there. And then to say that we have no right to turn to God, who's the one who gives the authority for government to be in place, all total anyway, is wrong.
All right, let me just ask you, Josh, just on the heels of what the pastor said. The White House says that the kneeling has morphed into more than just police brutality, that the focus has changed since the initial intent when Colin Kaepernick did that a little over a year ago. Is that true? What is the White House talking about?
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I've had the opportunity to speak with some current and former players and certainly have read much of what they've written. These guys are protesting for people like Tamir Rice, the young boy killed in a Cleveland park for the crime of playing with a BB gun. They're protesting for Walter Scott, shot in the back in North Charleston, South Carolina. They're actually very clear and very focused about why they're taking that knee. And again, it's not a knee that's a show of disrespect to the flag or to the national anthem. It's a knee that is meant to mark the gap between American ideals and how a lot of people live and die in America today. So I think the press secretary and the president is off on that.
What do you have to say to the press secretary when she said, well, if you have an issue with police brutality, you should protest the police officers protecting you, not the flag?
You know, I would say the White House does not get to tell people how to protest. I would encourage folks to read Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail where he speaks directly to this. You don't get to set the timetable on another person's freedom. Colin Kaepernick sparked a conversation here, and in the eyes of him and many others, the time is now. And the last thing I would note is that if you would not have been talking about racial issues in America if it wasn't for Colin Kaepernick and all these folks kneeling down, then they've done their job.
And one thing I'd like to say to that, one thing I'd like to say about that is that the president, albeit however he makes his decisions, the president himself is still under the hand of Almighty God. And maybe for such a time as this, his comments have brought to the forefront again the injustices that have been done, and he has brought attention to it. So in some ways we want to condemn him, but in other ways we need to look at it and recognize this nation today. They're back on the forefront, regardless of how he ever intended for it to be. I see a way now that you've got more of the NFL and the people and the players recognizing we have issues in this nation we need to deal with.
Yeah, it seems like he really galvanized those in the NFL and beyond. Bishop Lowell, Joshua Dubois, thank you. Really interesting and important discussion there.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And we'll get the point of view, rather, from members of the military coming up. Plus, on this Monday, protests break out on Capitol Hill at a hearing for the latest Republican attempt to repeal and replace Obamacare, what the White House is saying about the Graham Cassidy bill. Also, more on the escalating words between the U.S. and North Korea. North Korea now claiming President Trump declared war over Twitter, saying that now gives them the right to shoot down American planes. We'll discuss the escalating tension and what comes next.
We at the Coca-Cola Company believe the health of our water sources is essential to the health of our communities, which is why we're helping to replenish the mighty Rio Grande, as well as over 30 watersheds across the country. We're also leading water projects in more than 100 communities. And for every drop we use, we're working to give one back, because our products rely on the same thing as we all do: clean water. And we care about it like our business depends on it.
It's okay that everybody ignores me when I drive. It's fine, because I get a safe driving bonus check every 6 months. I'm accident-free. And I don't share it with Mom, right, Mom? Right.
Safe driving bonus checks only from Allstate. Switching to Allstate is worth it.
He was an ordinary man, changed by an extraordinary event.
Sir, you are now the President of the United States.
With approval ratings through the roof. Wednesday, Kiefer is back.
Russia's looking for a showdown.
In the White House drama.
He's coming after my family.
That will have America addicted again.
Playtime is over.
Designated Survivor season premiere Wednesday on ABC.
Introducing Lean 13 from Nutrisystem. Lose up to 13 pounds in your first month, guaranteed.
Lose up to 13 pounds fast with the new Lean 13 from Nutrisystem.
Your 13 can turn into 20, 30, 50, even more. I'm Marie and I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem. You'll see results right away. Count, measure, meetings? No, not with Nutrisystem.
Order your 28-day plan right now and we'll rush you Lean 13. Get specially designed meals, plus 1 week of new NutriCrush bars to crush cravings free. And 1 week of Turbo Shakes to bust belly bloat free.
Bye-bye, stubborn belly fat.
Call or go online in the next 2 minutes and we'll even throw in FedEx shipping free. Lose up to 13 pounds and 7 inches overall your first month.
Your first 13 pounds? Gone.
Go online or call 888-902-THIN right now and get new Lean 13 with bars and shakes free.
Whether it's new business, new boss, or new romance, these are the designer moments.
Now at Men's Warehouse, designer suits start at $279, plus buy one, get one free on select items.
You're gonna like the way you look in a designer suit.
People would stare. Psoriasis does that.
It was tough getting out there on stage.
I wanted to be clear. I wanted it to last.
So I kept on fighting.
I found something that worked and keeps on working.
Now, they see me.
See me.
See if Cosentyx can make a difference for you. Cosentyx is proven to help people with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis find clear skin that can last. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting Cosentyx, you should be checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, or if you've received a vaccine or plan to. If you have inflammatory bowel disease, tell your doctor if symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions may occur.
Never give up.
See me.
See me.
Clear skin can last.
Don't hold back. Ask your dermatologist if Cosentyx can help you find clear skin that lasts.
At Airborne Wireless Network, our satellite doesn't need a rocket to be launched. It's as simple as an airplane taking off. The beauty of our concept is that our satellites are already flying. With our equipment on board, commercial aircraft would become part of our global wireless network. Aircraft fly everywhere, enabling us to cover areas satellites may not, creating a worldwide network at a fraction of the cost. Airborne Wireless Network, redefining global connectivity.
And you are watching protesters disrupting the first and only hearing Congress will have on the Graham Cassidy bill. You saw a police officer looking to carry out a protester there in that video. That is the 11th hour effort by the Republicans to revamp the nation's health care system. And now that last-ditch effort has gone through some last-minute revisions. Moments ago, the White House had this to say about health care.
We've been calling on Congress to do what they were elected to do, and certainly what most of them campaigned on, and that's to repeal and replace Obamacare. We're continuing to push forward. We know we can't live with the Obamacare status quo. It's a complete disaster, and so we're hoping that this moves forward and goes through.
So is he doing something specific?
He's continuing to be engaged both directly and through his team, legislative affairs team, and the vice president.
Joining me now, CNN chief political correspondent Dana Bash, also co-moderator of tonight's CNN debate on health care. Very timely, Dana. What are these new changes to the Graham Cassidy bill?
Well, they're varied, but mostly it is about trying to sweeten the deal, sweeten the pot for some of those undecided Republican senators whom they actually really need for any, if there's any chance of actually getting this passed. For example, one of the main senators who is the focus of a lot of pressure, a lot of arm twisting right now is Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Among these changes, some special help for Native Americans in her state, who she says have very special, unique needs, and they would need to be taken care of. And also just an increased percentage of money, of the federal pot of money, because look, what this is comes down to, and what we're talking about, is a fundamental change, a really fundamental change in the way healthcare is distributed and provided, health insurance, I should say, in this country. It would take the federal money, Obamacare, and change it and push it all over to the states. So because this is so new and because this is under such a time constraint, there's really kind of a warp speed trying to bone up on this, and that is just in terms of the process, making a lot of people uncomfortable, starting with John McCain. We saw him on Friday saying he might even be okay in the long term with this just one example of some things that are tripping them up. I didn't even mention the more conservative side of the Republican spectrum. You have people like Rand Paul, like Ted Cruz, who say that they don't like this idea of so-called block grants to the states because it keeps in place too much of Obamacare. So this is the classic kind of whack-a-mole of legislating, even, again, we should emphasize, even within the Republican Party, because we're just talking about trying to get Republican votes for them to get it over the finish line. No Democrats have come on board or even close at this point.
It's complicated, to say the least. Dana Bash, thank you so much. And don't miss Dana and Jake Tapper moderating a CNN debate tonight. The fight over Obamacare. Senators Amy Klobuchar and Bernie Sanders go head-to-head with Senators Lindsey Graham and Bill Cassidy. That's tonight at 9 Eastern, only on CNN. Up next, one of the Pittsburgh Steelers who served 3 tours in Afghanistan was the only one from his team to come out of the locker room when the national anthem was played before his game. I'll be joined live by an Army veteran and a military widow with different takes on this controversy. Stay with us.
Tonight, the final battle to repeal Obamacare is set. Supporters Graham and Cassidy face opposition Sanders and Klobuchar in a live CNN debate, moderated by Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. The fight over Obamacare. Tonight at 9, only on CNN.
When you've been making delicious natural cheese for over 100 years like Kraft has, you'll learn a lot about what people want.
Honey, do we have like a super creamy cheese with taco spice already in it? Oh, thanks.
Bon appetit cheese.
Okay.
Taxpayers have rights. Do you know your rights? We do. We're Community Tax. If you owe back taxes, have years of unfiled returns, or have received one of these, you need our help immediately. The IRS is now more aggressive than ever and even using private debt collectors to collect back taxes. With our proprietary Fast Action Response Program, Community Tax can stop wage garnishments, bank levies, and harassment now. Call Community Tax today at 800-444-1026 for a free, no-obligation case analysis. Who's your tax guy?
Imagine a kid who's told his disability will be a lifelong struggle. Now imagine a place where that same kid is told he can do anything. I don't have to imagine, because that kid is me. And that place is Shriners Hospitals for Children.
For over 90 years, Shriners Hospitals for Children has helped bring hope to children and their families, regardless of their ability to pay.
Because of Shriners Hospitals for Children, I can play basketball. I can paint.
I can play hockey.
I can climb stairs. I can write my name. $19 a month from people like you. Let Shriners Hospitals for Children help kids like me.
Will you send your love to the rescue today?
You're not just giving a child the care they need. You're giving them hope.
Strength. Joy. Independence. But we can't do it without you. Just 63 cents a day can change a kid's life forever, like it did for me.
Will you send your love to the rescue today?
Your call says you care. Your gift, no matter how small it is, can help a kid like me. Like me.
Like Andrea.
When you call today, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of the love you gave to a kid just like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Thank you for giving.
Because of you, we see lives change every day.
Call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go online to loveshriners.org today. Your call says you care.
When you do the mirror exercise, do most people like what they see?
Most people have some criticisms.
I'm gonna look at myself right now. Like I feel okay.
New season starts Sunday night at 10 on CNN.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call the experts at creditrepair.com for your free credit evaluation and game plan to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
At creditrepair.com, dreams do happen.
Thanks to creditrepair.com, I will be able to have a better credit score and get that house.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation and game plan to help get back on the track to great credit. Call 1-800-881-5700.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Well, the United States' most popular sport, the NFL, going head-to-head, I should say football, going head-to-head with the President of the United States. Some players took a knee, some sat, and many locked arms during the national anthem. The Steelers, Titans, and Seahawks all deciding to remain in the locker room during the national anthems yesterday. All the players except for one on the Steelers side. Alejandro Villanueva is a former Army Ranger. You see him right here in this video. He came out all alone during the national anthem. He did 3 tours in Afghanistan after graduating from West Point, and he stood in the tunnel alone with his hand in his heart, as you see. Worth noting here, Villanueva's stand just earned him the top 6 of his team.
We got a group of men in there, man, that come from different socioeconomic backgrounds, races, creed, ethnicities, and religions, and so forth. That's football. That's a lot of team sports. But because of our position, we get drugged into, to be quite honest with you. And so some have opinions, some don't. We wanted to protect those that don't. We wanted to protect those that do. We came here to play a football game today, and that was our intentions.
And joining me now to discuss, Jason Beardsley, former U.S. Army Special Operations and co-founder and CEO of the Underground Movement. Also with us, Katie Hubbard, a mother of 1 and the widow of Command Sergeant Major James W. Hubbard, Jr. Featured right here in this picture. Katie, I'm going to start with you. You tweeted this. You said, "My husband died for your right to #take a knee. He would have supported you. I support you. Sincerely, a military widow." As you well know, Katie, many in the military find this disrespectful to the flag that they fought for and their comrades died for. Explain why you support these protests.
Well, I have supported, my husband was a black man in America. He graduated the last class of a segregated school in southern Georgia. He was drafted into the military in 1972. He has faced discrimination his entire life until the day he died. He was facing discrimination in this country. My husband said that he swore to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. You don't have to agree with people when they are exercising their rights, such as, you know, peaceful protests or taking a knee, but you have to protect their right to do so. Knowing what my husband went through, knowing our conversations that we had, knowing his viewpoints of being a black man in America, that is why I support, and I know my husband would have supported this movement.
And Jason, you see it a little bit differently, right?
Yeah, I sure do. Thank you. But by the way, Katie, we want to thank you and honor you and your family for the service and the sacrifice. That means a lot to us. But here's where I stand. I'm a military veteran. I'm a black man. I'm a combat veteran. And I serve that flag proudly. It's about our nation coming together. Those enemy because they served and reported to that flag. So duty and honor and piety come first. Yes, there are going to be racial injustices, social injustices, but the point here is the time to make that protest, particularly if it's a personal protest, would be in a speech or in a conference on your personal time with your personal salary on your clock, not the clock of the NFL. However, if the NFL wants to go that way, they've got that right. But as an audience member, as a veteran, and as a proud American, I've got the right to tune out the channel or to vote with my dollars elsewhere.
And what do you have to say to those who claim, look, they're not protesting the flag or the national anthem? This doesn't have to do with that. It's about taking a stand and calling attention in a very public way to an issue that they feel is very important to them.
I mean, it's a shallow hypocrisy. I mean, number one, they're not allowed to take a stand in the end zone when they want to celebrate a football touchdown. They're not allowed to celebrate Dallas police officers who were slain on duty when they want to wear something on their helmet that uplifts them. They're not taking that protest out at a press conference when they can enunciate clearly what their big ideas are. Maybe we agree with them. They're actually taking the time that is due the respect to this nation and that flag, which is a common courtesy I think many of us agree to. And again, they can do that if they want to. But a lot of us are standing with Ranger Villanueva. And just like the Army motto says, sometimes Rangers lead the way. I'm on his side.
All right, Katie, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, but you also got to understand that when an individual feels that that anthem or the flag is not giving them the rights that they are supposed to be afforded in this country, being an American, it is one of the only jobs besides the military that people are going to have to stand in front of and hearing the anthem or doing a pledge. So no other job is going to make an individual do that. So if a person finds that this is not representative of them, they can choose not to be in the military, which, you know, so they don't have to do that, or they can choose to be in an area that they're not. But at the NFL, they're choosing to play football. They're not there to put on a uniform to protect the country. They are there as an American citizen, exercising their rights to play a sport, to be an individual. So why should they have to stand up and support something that they feel that is not representative of themselves.
Okay, thank you so much. Katie Hubbard, Jason Beardsley, I'm really sorry we have to go, but I hope you both feel like you had your voices heard in this very important discussion. And Katie, thank you for your family's service and sacrifice.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And up next, right here in the newsroom on this Monday, the White House is firing back against North Korea's claim that President Trump's latest tweet amounts to a declaration of war, what the regime is threatening to do in retaliation.
Tonight, the final battle to repeal Obamacare is set. Supporters Graham and Cassidy face opposition Sanders and Klobuchar in a live CNN debate, moderated by Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. The fight over Obamacare. Tonight at 9, only on CNN.
You know who likes to be in control? This guy. Check it out. Self-appendectomy. Oh, that's really attached. That's why I rent from National, where I get the control to choose any car in the aisle I want, not some car they choose for me. Which makes me one smooth